Hey everybody, welcome to my next video in my Stanley Kubrick series. This video is going to be talking about The Shining. Now, if I have already done multiple videos about The Shining, I actually did I guess you could say, an analysis video of The Shining, or at least I started an analysis series on The Shining. And basically, I was just taking a bunch of information that I saw online and putting it in video form and giving you the links to those websites that were talking about it. But since they came out with that one documentary that talked about The Shining, where basically I think most of the crap that they were talking about in that movie was just so far-fetched, but that renewed interest, so everybody was flocking to see that movie. So I really felt like me making those videos or finishing that series was kind of pointless because, you know, people would have been hearing about it so much already. At least the people that would have enjoyed watching the video. They would have already seen that documentary and seen a bunch of other stuff, and so I just decided to discontinue it. And so I'm not really going to get into all that. I'm really just strictly going to, stick with the plot and the direction of the film. And basically, what you have here is not only an amazing horror film. I think this is one of the best directed films of all time. It starts out with a bang, like Stanley Kubrick with his tracking shot, a helicopter tracking shot, through nature, I guess you could say, and, starts out flying like over a lake and then through the mountains and all. I mean, it is an amazing tracking shot. And basically the entire film is filled with very awesome tracking shots. And I know I keep saying tracking shots, but this film is probably the pinnacle of tracking shots in regards to film. Because every single scene, that is what makes every single scene in this film. Whether you're, you're going around with, well, first of all, if you haven't seen The Shining, it's about a writer, played by Jack Nicholson, who is basically being a caretaker for a resort kind of hotel, and they're not open during the winter. So he's going there, he figures, him and his family are going to go there. His son's not really making a lot of friends, so maybe he could just escape life and just go and spend months at this, winter, snowed-in hotel. And so, and plus he really wants to write another book. And so he needs that time. And so he spends months at the Overlook Hotel. And you kind of get him riding, his son, riding his bike, a little bike around the hotel in some of the most spectacular tracking shots in this film. You're probably going to hear me say that a lot because the film is just one of those, it's filmed perfectly. And it makes the hotel feel like it's a character. And there's a backstory with this hotel. A caretaker in the past previously murdered his family there because he kind of went cabin fever insane. But then you find out that they actually, the place may be haunted. Then you get into some of the stuff that I've talked about before about how the movie can be considered like a metaphor for, the Native American Holocaust, I guess you could say, that happened in the 1800s in the United States. Because at the beginning of the movie, when he's given his tour of the hotel, the guy said basically when it was built, they had to fight off Indian, attackers and villagers and stuff. That means they're basically built the hotel on a burial ground. And so, and you kind of get little clues throughout the whole film, Jack saying stuff like white man's burden, all this stuff, to where you really feel like maybe he's the representation of, the invading Americans at the time. And so maybe the whole movie is just a metaphor for that whole time period. I like that part of it because I think, Kubrick did have a lot of that stuff in mind, or he wouldn't have written in the script and he wouldn't have changed certain things from the book. And I think it's so blatant. But there's a bunch of other stuff that one documentary talks about that is really just kind of off the wall to where you're like, no. But I like the whole, Native American Holocaust analogy behind it because it really makes the movie that much more powerful. And you can kind of understand it a little bit more and enjoy it more. But even if you didn't know that, you don't even need that because it's a beautiful looking film. It doesn't just have loads of gore, it's purely psychological. Now there is some blood in the film. There's a famous scene of the elevators opening up and blood just pouring down it. pouring out of it. But in terms of that, I mean, you really don't see any on-screen murders in this film. I mean, except for one. So, and I'm really trying to make this spoiler-free, so I'm not going to really talk about it. But everybody knows that, you know, Jack Nicholson's character kind of loses his mind a little bit, and because it's such an iconic film now to where everybody kind of knows that he does. But the situation surrounding that is really, I don't want to give any of that's spoiler zone, and I'm not going to go down that road. But I definitely think this is one of the greatest looking films, one of the greatest directed films ever made. And if I could think of only one thing that kind of annoys me about it, would just be Shelley Duvall's performance. But I think that's how it's supposed to be. I mean, it used to really bug me. I used to think she was a terrible actress. But I don't necessarily think she's a terrible actress. I think that's just how Kubrick wanted her to portray Wendy, his wife, because you wanted to feel almost like a little bit of sympathy for Jack Nicholson's character, because he kind of felt like maybe she was kind of a nag and kind of an annoyance at times. But either way, I do not have a problem with her at all anymore, because I've seen her in a bunch of other stuff. She's just one of, a different, unique kind of actress. And so I highly recommend this film. I know I'm saying that to everybody who's probably seen this film, but I think you should go into this film not even thinking of it as a horror film, but just experience it as just a great film. And it just has some really eerie music, and it's just, spectacular. Love it, love it, love it. And I definitely give this 1980 film, I think it was, 1980 film, 10 out of 10. I really give all of Kubrick's films a 10 out of 10. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. The previous videos will be in the links below, and have a wonderful day.